You might have heard of an app called Absher. It's sometimes called the wife tracking app. Earlier this year, a group of Democratic lawmakers wrote a letter to Apple and Google demanding the app be removed from their stores. They said a 21st century innovation should not perpetuate 16th century tyranny. Absher was launched by the Saudi government in 2015. It gives Saudi citizens digital access to interior ministry services. Basically, it's meant to simplify annoying bureaucratic tasks like renewing a passport or registering a vehicle. But if you're a Saudi man, Absher also includes a feature called dependent services, where you can grant female dependents permission to travel, or, if you're so inclined, revoke it. Of course, not everyone thinks this is a great idea. We reached out to Google and Apple. Google didn't respond, and Apple didn't want to comment on the record. But lately, the app seems to be having an unforeseen side effect. By digitizing the permission-granting process, it might inadvertently be making it easier for some women to flee the country. And that's what brought me to Maha and Wafa. I saw their tweet saying they'd fled Saudi Arabia seeking asylum. They said their family and the Saudi government had suspended their passports and that they were now trapped in the tiny post-Soviet nation of Georgia.
My name is Maha and my sister Wafa. We are in danger. We need your support.
Maha and Wafa weren't just fleeing the ultra-conservative Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, a country where women need a male guardian's permission to do just about anything, like get married or travel. They were also running away from an abusive family, a father, they say, who beat them. And now they were stuck in Georgia, waiting for another country to accept their plea for asylum. And they weren't having much luck, though Saudi Arabia denies canceling their passports. The Saudi government doesn't look kindly on those who criticize it or make it look bad. Last year, a prominent Saudi journalist living in self-imposed exile, Jamal Khashoggi, was murdered after he set foot inside a Saudi consulate in Istanbul, thinking he was applying for a marriage license. Saudi Arabia has admitted he was killed inside the consulate in what they call a rogue operation, but maintains the Saudi royal family was not involved. So we headed to this tiny country, sandwiched between Turkey and Russia, hoping that we could find the sisters before their family did. Georgia isn't exactly an ideal place to hide from the long arms of an oil-rich superpower. For starters, the capital, Tbilisi, is pretty small, which makes it hard to be anonymous. And Saudis don't need visas to travel there. So anyone can come looking.
They're pretty much finding new places to stay every night because they're too scared to stay in one location for too long.
Katya Patton is an American journalist based in Tbilisi. She was one of the first to interview Maha and Wafa for the online platform Coda. She's also one of the few people who knows how to find them.
Because they're in a really difficult position. On the one hand, they kind of need the media attention to put pressure on another country to take them in, but every time they leave their secure compound, they're at risk.
Right, so it definitely is this double-edged sword where they have to take the risk to get their faces out, to be recognized.
So Katya vouched for us and helped us set up a covert meeting.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I am Wafa. Welcome.
What was your life like in Saudi Arabia?
We can't do anything without guardianship. Anything, small things like cut hair, like our clothes, like
Study, like job,
friends,
like,
supermarket. The small thing we can do it.
For 5 years, they planned their escape, saving money, researching destinations, and waiting.
Were you scared?
Yes, so much.
It was their first time on a plane or outside of Saudi Arabia. The sisters escaped by hacking into their father's Absher account, but they don't want to say exactly how. Their concern giving too much detail could make it harder for other women.
Is Absher a friend or an enemy to you?
But a friend because we can take.
Even even for them, the issue seems complicated. Less complicated is how they feel about returning to Saudi Arabia.
I get death, but I can't go to Saudi Arabia, you know?
We already killed if we come back.
Switzerland, Sweden, South Korea, they don't seem to care where they go, as long as it's far from Saudi Arabia.
What are your dreams for yourself? What would you like to do in 10 years?
Too many things. I want to try everything can't do it in my country. Everything, ambition, yes. To do many things.
After the interview, we said goodbye. Maha and Wafa went back to their shelter to wait for embassies, aid organizations, UN agencies, basically anyone who might be able to help steer them out of limbo in Georgia. And I went back to my office in London, still full of questions. Bessema Momani, a professor of political science at Waterloo University in Canada, was kind enough to try to answer some of them.
These women have been in Georgia for over a month, and it doesn't seem like much progress is being made. Why do you think sometimes these things happen so quickly, and for other people it seems like people don't care as much?
Saudi Arabia is still a very important economy. It is the #1 purchaser of weapons in the world. It is obviously a very important oil supplier. It has a lot of geopolitical weight, including in Washington. And so it's difficult for a lot of countries to be very public and vocal in their criticism of Saudi Arabia.
So basically, it's just luck and timing and which way the geopolitical winds happen to be blowing, which, if I'm being honest, was not exactly a satisfying answer. But then, a few weeks later, something slightly more satisfying happened. Another tweet.
We have to start our new life.
Maha and Wafa were leaving Georgia. They'd gotten asylum in a new country. They didn't say where they were going or why their luck had suddenly changed, only that they wanted to keep their new destination a secret. And this time, I decided not to ask.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.